Welcome to my digital marketing crash course for business owners and decision makers. My name is Haytham Zaidan, and after helping so many businesses with their digital marketing strategies and efforts, I came to realize that there's a pattern to the challenges and issues that businesses find themselves in. And the root cause of most of these is basically a lack of digital marketing knowledge. Now, I do have to preface this by saying that you are not going to walk away as a digital marketing strategist or a guru, especially not just from one crash course, but you will definitely become more knowledgeable about digital marketing and the different components that impact most businesses. You'll be able to formulate an idea of how digital marketing can serve your business. You'll be able to have more constructive discussions with your digital marketing agency or your digital marketing in-house digital marketing team. Now, a little about me. My name is Haytham Zaidan. Like I said, no, خلاص بس هون. Pause. So who am I? Why should you listen to me? Basically, I've been doing something in the world of digital marketing since high school. I have done pretty much all of it. I've created a website. I sold ebooks. I sold on eBay. I did drop shipping. I did direct to consumer. I did email marketing. Was using autoresponders, which were the thing before MailChimp. So I've done pretty much all of it. And that has built a lot of hands-on experience, which is, I think is, I'm very fortunate to have that, because a lot of people nowadays, they watch a couple of YouTube videos and, they think they know because they know how to do it, but without actually implementing and executing, they don't understand the challenges that could come up. I am also the founder of Digitopia.Marketing, which is a digital marketing strategy and creative agency. I like to think of my agency as a no BS agency, so I will get you the results that you want without the fluff and the noise and the quote-unquote BS that comes from a lot of digital marketing agencies. I love to create tailor-made strategies and funnels that generate you revenues and results. And for me, being a digital marketing strategist is like, putting a puzzle together. It's really fun. It's really enjoyable. And the fact that I get to do it with many different businesses in many different industries keeps it always exciting and fresh for me. So I really enjoy that. In 2020, I got my master's in digital marketing from the Digital Marketing Institute. I am Facebook Blueprint certified, or Meta Blueprint certified. And I've previously worked with multinational companies in FMCG, in consumer electronics, and in beauty and skincare. So this course is designed to give small and medium business owners and decision makers enough knowledge that will allow them to make smart decisions. The idea I had when I started working on this is to have you become well-rounded with some of the digital marketing components that are being deployed by businesses these days. This should allow you to better plan your digital marketing efforts, but better budget for your digital marketing efforts, and have better discussions with your in-house team or digital marketing agency. I think one of the things that you will notice is that you will gain enough knowledge that you will be able to have a vision, or at the very least, an idea of how digital marketing can be deployed to generate you more business. One thing I want to stress out is that this is not a how-to course. I am not going to show you how to set up a Facebook page or create an ad account. There's a lot of good material on YouTube for that. So if you need that stuff, you can find it on YouTube. This is more of a macro view, strategic thinking level course. So that's I really need to stress on that, because it's not going to be your typical course. And if you're expecting a lot of how-tos and a lot of details, you're not going to find it here. And the last thing I want to say before we jump in is that I try to be as straightforward to the point as possible, because as a business owner or a decision maker, you have a lot on your plate. and you are probably going to want to have the information without lots of noise or fluff. So if I did not cover something deep enough, or you feel like you have more questions, or you want to ask for more details, please shoot me an email. All of my contact information will be shared at the end of this course. I'll be covering 7 topics in this course. You will notice that I have omitted email, mobile, and e-commerce, and that's because not all of the businesses out there use these 3. For example, if you're a beauty clinic, then you are not focused on e-commerce as much as maybe paid ads and lead generation. And if you're a skincare brand, a startup skincare brand, then you're probably focused more on social media than email. So I try to focus on what matters for most businesses, and that's why you will see that the structure is very simple and straightforward. We'll start with the methodology that I use with all of my clients, and then we move on to audiences and personas, which is a good segue to social media content and communication. And then we'll cover search, which, depending on where you live in the world, is either mature or underrated. In the Middle East, where I'm at right now, it is very underrated and neglected for whatever reason. So it's basically a low hanging fruit for businesses in the Middle East. Then after that, I'll talk about paid ads and some of the things that you must consider when you look at paid ads. And then we'll move on to budgeting and the different things that you must keep in mind when doing your budgets. And then we're going to end with an example to show you how all of this comes together for a business. When you ask a decent digital marketer for advice, they'll always tell you to test, and test. And that's really a good way of doing it, but there's even a better way of doing it, which is the SIS methodology. And this methodology is what we use with all of our clients. It's basically a methodology that provides the foundation for all of your digital marketing planning and activities. Think of it as a loop that is running in the background of everything we're going to cover today and everything that you will be doing in digital marketing for your business. The methodology highlights one of the best and, in my opinion, most beautiful aspects of digital marketing, and that is you can figure a lot out with little investment, which is basically not possible with traditional marketing. It's only with digital marketing that you can do things in bits and then scale when it's right. The SIS methodology, or the SIS method, is very simple and straightforward. It is start, iterate, and scale. We first start with the end in mind, and then we work our way backwards, or we work our planning backwards, and then we iterate and reiterate, learning from the data that we gather. And then once we hit that sweet spot, we scale. And that allows us not to blow our budget all over the place, or not on one activity that eventually fails to yield any return on investment. So we never blow our budget on anything without testing and learning. And that's basically the core of the SIS method. Moving on to the audience and personas section, it's very important for us to understand that businesses are moving more and more away from the traditional way of communicating to the digital way of communicating. The digital way of communicating is limitless in possibilities, and it can be very tailor-made based on your location, on the intent, on the interests and affinity of your customers and audiences. So it's no longer the case that you can run a blanket ad on TV and expect results, because it's not the best use of money. And now people are expecting more personalization from the communication that is being broadcasted or being put out there. So you need to know your audience what to communicate, how to communicate, when to communicate, and where to communicate with them. And that's why this section is very important for you to pay attention to. Now, the term audience is frequently used in digital marketing. Sometimes it's even used interchangeably with buyer's persona. And so what you see in many discussions is that people will use the term audience to refer to persona. Now, if you want to get technical, they are different. They are very different. But to simplify the explanation, you can think of the target audience as a team, and you can think of a buyer's persona as one of the players. The only difference between them is the level of details. So when you look at a team, its members have similar interests and they are around the same age. However, when you focus on a specific player, the player will have a different background, a different set of goals, a different personality, and different aspirations from the other team members. A persona, therefore, will allow you to tailor your message and communication to catch the attention of those who fit in that persona, making you more relatable to them. With that being said, most small businesses and startups have a common challenge, and that is they don't know how their buyer's persona look like. They might have an idea, but they don't have enough data. So the solution to this is to use the attributes of your audience, which are general in nature, as the attributes of your persona. And so basically, your communication and targeting will be initially broader. And then once the business gets more data about its customers, and then they can begin formulating more concrete and fine-tuned buyers' personas. And you'll find that you will be fine-tuning them as you move forward in time in your business. Lastly, and this is an important one, lots of business owners make that mistake. They try to get too fancy with the buyer's personas and they end up with 20 persona profiles. So try to keep it simple. Most businesses do not need more than 3 personas. If you're pushing it, maybe 5, but really 3 is more than enough for most small businesses and even for most medium businesses. I have worked on a project where we had 7 personas. These situations exist, but do not go overboard. You don't aim for 5 personas, aim for 3 personas and then take it from there. Audiences and personas evolve as your business evolves, and with the internet there's an unprecedented amount of data available online about your customers. So research is very important and is also a continuous task. And this activity, the research, will help you develop much more relevant and personalized communication campaigns based on individual preferences. So it's on you to fully and intimately understand your customers. And what's important for you to know in these initial stages or initial research phases are 2 things. The first one is understanding your target customer, and this means understanding their interactions, their preferences, their behaviors. So think of where they spend time online, what they do online, what kind of content do they consume, and how their digital behavior impacts their decision making, especially when it comes to buying and making purchase decisions. The second aspect you need to become aware of is the customer journey. And we do this by creating something called a customer journey map, or the customer journey mapping. This is basically the mapping of the stages of your customer's life cycle, from the initial stage of awareness, passing through engagement and deeper research, all the way to choosing a product or service and converting. There are several ways you can determine the customer journey, and different customers will have different journeys. But you can think of or use things like analytics, surveys, keyword research, keyword mapping to understand the customer journey or to formulate a customer journey. what's important for you to understand is that the customer journey is a very crucial part of your digital marketing. So the more time you spend on this and the more time you fine tune it as you move forward, the better. Now, you have to bear in mind that a lot of customers will engage with your company using online and offline methods. And so, for example, it could mean that at one stage, they're doing research online, they're on your blog or on your website, or doing the research and gathering information, but then they only convert or they make the decision in store. So you need to keep that in mind, and that will help you to maintain and align your communication style of what you're doing online with what you're doing in store, and vice versa. So think of a simple example would be you have a blue colored website, and then when they come to your store or your shop, it's all pink, and that creates a mismatch. Even though it might be a psychological or a subtle mismatch, but that does create a mismatch. So think of other things like how you're communicating online, the banners, the text, the vibe they're getting from your staff, and all that stuff. Now, understanding your customers and their journey will allow you to make better decisions, and of course that will help you better invest your money. So you'll get the most return on your investment. Now, when you're doing your audience and persona research, you'll find that you're always refining and improving your audience and persona profiles based on the data and the results that your plans and strategies yield. Unfortunately, most small businesses, most small and medium businesses cannot afford the very expensive tools that give them the intimate insights about their customers. So what I like to do personally is I become a polite stalker, and that's basically me trying to track down public social media profiles of what could be my customer profile, and I go through those profiles and I figure out what they are interested in, what content do they consume and comment on, what hashtags do they follow, and I basically use all of that stuff to come up with my psychographic data. That's one way of doing it. Of course, the other way is if you have an in-store, if you have a store, or if your clients come to your shop or your clinic, then you can strike up a conversation and figure out what their motivations are, what their aspirations are, and what their values are, and that basically helps you beef up or fill up your psychographic attributes. Now, if you're starting from scratch and you don't have much to go on, then what you do is you go on you use your demographical data, and that becomes basically your starting point, and then you fine tune it with your psychographic data, and that of course becomes your persona profile. Fine tuning your personas with psychographic data is very important, because that's what makes a persona, because it reveals the different attributes or the different aspects of the personalities, the values, the opinions, the attitudes, interests, lifestyle, and so on. And so you have to have both of them. To fine tune your personas with psychographic data, you have to think of your customers as different communities of interests. Or you can think of them as the different players of your team. What's really nice is that the social web has allowed people to share interests and passions and gather around those interests and passions. So there are more and more places for them online to spend time on, and that's what you need to figure out and use to generate your personas, your customer personas profile. So if you're able to understand this, it will make it easy for you to note down the different attributes like attitudes and behavior, digital behavior, needs, wants, life stage, level of understanding, other brands they follow, interests and motivations. Another aspect of audience research is competitive research. And I've noticed that very few digital marketers or digital marketing agencies talk about this, which is unfortunate for the businesses that they serve. And the reason why I'm saying this is because in some cases you find low-hanging fruits, and you should be capitalizing on these because they will yield the highest ROI for you. So to do this, there are 3 questions you need to find answers to when you're doing your competitive research. And these questions are: what is the competition doing to reach their audience? Number 2, who is their audience? And number 3, what gaps exists between the competition and the audience? And of course, that question basically will tell you if there are opportunities that you can capitalize on. Now, whenever we do the competitive research, we like to gather the findings in an Excel sheet. And it is certainly a lot of work, especially when you have multiple competitors to go through, but it also reveals a lot of insights. And what you need to capture is basically the following. Now, how you organize it is really up to you. But what you really need to capture is basically who the audience that your competitor is focused on. So let's say, are they talking to moms, beauty bloggers, athletes? And then the second thing that you need to understand or find out is what is the strategy being deployed by your competition to reach that audience. So let's say they are targeting beauty bloggers. So what is the strategy that they're deploying? Are they looking to build trust with their audience by offering helpful content? Could be that, yeah? So let's assume it's that. Then the third question would be, once you identify the strategy, you will start to see the tactics emerge through, yeah? So once we figure out that it's beauty bloggers, that it's they're trying to build trust through offering helpful content, then how are they doing that? What is the tactic? And that could be, for example, they are offering makeup tutorials on Instagram and YouTube. And then the last thing is you want to understand if that's working out for them or not. So if it's a successful tactic or not. And basically one of the things that you look at is the target audience interacting with the content. Are they sharing it? Are they commenting on it? Are they talking about it in different places? So once you identify all of this and you map it out, you'll get a pretty good idea of who is doing what and who is talking to who. And of course, it will also show you what gaps exist and where you can come in without a lot of investment, or come in with a heavy investment, or start here and end there and all that stuff. So doing this level of research and analysis will allow you to test different tailor-made messages and communication that will hopefully resonate with your audience and personas. The value of social research really comes down to you understanding and intimately knowing all there is to know about your audience, because if you do this right and you spend the right time and effort on this, it will give you a better understanding of your audience and their culture. It will help you create better content for your audience. It will make you wiser with your budget spending. It will allow you to create relationships with your audience, which will definitely drive word of mouth. It will give you the ability to identify significant emerging trends, and it will make you be able to differentiate yourself from the competition. Now that we finished with audience and personas, it is time to move on to content. We've all heard of the saying, cash is king. Well, in digital marketing, we say content is king. And relevant content is truly the king of all content. But before we dive into content and the creation of content, let's understand what content marketing is. Content marketing is a powerful tool for businesses to use in bringing consumers along the conversion funnel. Different formats, different styles, and different platforms serve different audience needs and ultimately improve your chances of acquiring new customers and clients. As more and more users and businesses flood the internet with content, you must work extra hard at creating relevant content. Otherwise, you'll just be part of the noise that people go through without, the whole idea of mindless scrolling. You need to stand out. And that's why I started with the audience and personas section, because I feel like if you don't get that part right and you don't understand them intimately, you cannot create relevant content. And that is also why I kept mentioning that you will always be refining and fine-tuning your audience and personas, because you will be exposed to more data, exposed to more insights, and exposed to more feedbacks from your clients and customers, and you'll be able to adjust and refine and customize your messaging and your communication and your content to them. If you truly understand your customers, you'll be able to give them the content that they will love to consume and share. To create good content, you need a good content plan. And if you've done your research properly on your audiences and personas, their journey, your competitors' audiences and personas, and any gaps that you can take advantage of, you will then be able to identify the different types of content that you need for the different stages of the funnel and for the different stages of the customer journey, and where to deploy them. There are multiple ways of doing this. What I like to do myself is I like to get a blank piece of paper for each stage of the funnel, and then jot down all the content ideas that I can produce for each stage based on the research that I've done. And then I like to ask myself, if I can only do up to 3 pieces of content for each stage, which ones will they be? This really helps me focus my efforts and my budget the right way, without blowing it all away on one thing. And that really helps me to cut through all the clutter and the noise that's online because of the insane amount of content that's being pushed these days. So you really need to have interesting, convincing, and relevant content targeting your audience. And to do this, I follow these 5 steps. Number 1, listen. Number 2, plan. Number 3, implement. Number 4, measure. And then number 5, amend. And you can see the SIS methodology in the background here. Yeah. So there is, especially from the implementation to the measurement to the the amendment, and the amend part is where you reiterate and then try again and so on. But let's break these 5 steps down and then talk about them. So the first one, which is listening, this is for you to identify the sentiments, the conversations and the sentiments toward your business or the industry that you are working in. Being able to identify the challenges faced, the opinions, the preconceptions, and even where the conversations are taking place on the web will help you with your planning and the creation of your content. Now, some of these aspects, like the challenges being faced or the preconceptions and so on, some of these may come apparent to you while you're doing your audience and persona research. In other cases, you'll be able to identify them here and now. Now, the second step is planning. So here, you really want to chart out your business objectives and what your aim is of using the different platforms that you are planning on using. So analyze your audience and characterize them into groups which your content will serve. Choose your content format to communicate your messages, and choose the platforms on which to disseminate your content. Now, In some cases, you might use the same content across all the platforms, depending on your business and the industry you're in. In other cases, no, you will have to tailor make the content based on the platform. And we're not talking only about dimensions and all that stuff, but no, really, when you are on platform A as a consumer, what are you expecting to see? And when you're on platform B, what are you expecting to see as a consumer? And the simplest example is LinkedIn and, let's say, Snapchat or Instagram. When you're on LinkedIn, you're expecting to consume a certain type of content, or you're expecting to see a certain type of content as a consumer. And when you're on Instagram, you're expecting to see a completely different type of content than what you see on LinkedIn. And that's where we're talking about, choosing what to serve where. Okay. Now, the third step is implementation. And that's the actual execution, which is the creation and the publication of this content to pique the interest and to engage with your target audience. Nurture this. In this step, you want to nurture the content by stimulating ongoing dialogue with your audience, and even by boosting your content with paid support. This last bit might freak some people out, because for some people, they think that creating good content should be enough for it to go viral, or for it to take off on its own. In reality, no. Without some kind of support behind the content, it will not go anywhere, unfortunately, these days. And then number 4 is measuring, and this is when you analyze the reach, engagement, and sentiment of towards the content, towards your business objectives, and so on. And that will tell you if you need to tweak something, if you need to increase the boosting behind it, if you need to maybe remove it altogether. And that's when you basically gather data and analyze, and then start making decisions. And then that's the fifth point, which is amendment. This is where you identify the opportunities to adjust and improve your content plan for the different stages. Like I said in the previous point, it might be that you need to remove the content altogether, or you might need to make some minor tweaks or major tweaks. But that's when you start implementing this. So you can see the SIS methodology at play here. Eventually, when your content is doing what it's supposed to be doing, and it's achieving the objectives that for which you created that content for, you can then deploy different strategies to maximize its effectiveness. Business to consumer audiences have very different objectives and behaviors when consuming content than business to business audiences. Not only that, but sometimes the audience itself has different expectations from the different platforms they're on. Nevertheless, this is a good starting point for us to look at when we're thinking about content for B2C and B2B. And the first aspect is the target market. So generally, if you're looking at B2C, the audience is wider, because just by definition, anybody who's interested in the B2C product or service is part of that audience. So that creates a wide net, or a bigger, wider pool of potential customers for you to fit in that audience. Now, in contrast, business to business, the relationship is more like a client or vendor approach. So the influence and the relationship exists usually within individual and related verticals. And if you're in B2B, you understand this. This is not a very wide communication type of approach. It is more intimate and more personal. Number 2 is the purchaser. Now, in B2C, individual consumers are largely the purchasers, or the people, or the customers. Yeah. There are considerations where there's maybe one customer or purchaser for the household, like the head of the family, or maybe if whoever is usually doing the grocery shopping, for example. Yeah. In B2B, purchasers are usually the head of the department or someone responsible for the procurement of third-party contractors or vendors. So you can see that there is a completely different mindset, and that requires a completely different approach. Now, the third one is the buying process. With B2C marketing, the process is usually a single step. There are exceptions in consideration for larger purchases, but B2C is usually a single step. With B2B, on the other hand, the buying process usually undergoes different stages and different steps. There is usually a cost-benefit analysis, proposals, pitches, and so on. So the buying process is more protracted, involving multiple steps and sometimes multiple stakeholders. The next one is the sales cycle. And for B2C, this is very short. And if you do work in B2C, you know how short that is. Whether it's in e-com or in store, click, add to cart, checkout, and that's it. Or pick up the chocolate bar, go to the cashier, and voila, you're done. For B2B, it's different. The buying process is a lot longer. There's lots of steps involved. It probably is not done in one setting. So you have to take that into account when you're creating your content, because the B2B audience is going to want to be engaged throughout this whole process. The fifth one is sales driver. And yes, of course, you need to have, as a consumer or the customer, you need to have the need for the product or service that you're buying. But in terms of you as a marketer, it means that we're talking about repetition and recognition of the brand and the product or the service. And that's why you see many brands hammering down their messages over and over again, whether on social media, whether even in the traditional communication back in the day, when you used to see, for example, Dove soaps, and it's just they hammer it down again and again and again. And that's the sales driver from our perspective as marketers. Whereas for B2B, the informational and professional nature of the relationship is what drives the sale. And I mentioned this, or I touched upon it in the probably the buying process. There is this relationship, this trust that builds between the brand and the buyer, in developing that relationship, developing that trust, the back and forth with the information and so on. So awareness and loyalty are large elements of the B2C influencer sphere when it comes to making a purchase decision. And the last point is sales factor. And for B2C, this basically means that you want to use or deploy emotional marketing, because individuals have less reliance on logic or less need to use logic when it comes to their spending decisions. It's more emotional and based on impulse. Whereas for B2B, you need more data, more background information, as well as financial logic and proven track records. All these things are crucial in the sales conversion decisions. So as you can see, there is no one size that fits all when it comes to the intent of your communication. And it's important to consider the agenda of your content strategy to make sure that it is serving the right objectives, but also speaking in relatable ways to your intended recipient throughout the process. Yeah. So if you look at B2B, for example, and you want to create something for them, you have to take into account that the buying process is long. Lots of steps are involved. Maybe you need to communicate with different stakeholders at different times or in the same time, but communicating different stuff, so that basically you massage or you make the sales process a whole lot easier for yourself. Whereas for B2C, it's completely different. It's probably more impulsive. You might need to do more promotions or more email marketing. We're not going to do that in this course, the whole email marketing bit, but it's shorter, quicker, faster, more impulsive. Whereas for B2B, it's different. So when you have that in mind, when you're creating your content, you'll be able to really tailor make your content based on who you're serving and where they stand in the whole process. Now let's talk about some of the things that you might want to consider, or not might want to consider, you actually need to consider when doing your content and your planning. So you have keep these in mind when you're researching and planning your content, because it will save you a lot of money and it will help you out big time. So the first aspect is talent, and you need to think of questions like, who is going to create this content for me? Are they in-house? Do I already have them in my staff? Do I need to outsource, or do I need to hire? Do I need to do a photo shoot, or just me holding the phone and speaking is enough? Do I need maybe a specialized setup or a specialized studio or something like that? So that's something that you need to keep in mind when you're doing your content or you're planning. The next thing, or the second thing that you need to consider, is the marketing cost of your content. So you need to think of questions like, what pieces of content should get boosted for how long. Remember, most content doesn't go viral on their own, so you'll need to push them somehow, and you'll need to give your content, especially the ones that work, extra love from your end. And the last thing you want to consider is, how long is it going to take to create this content vis-a-vis your plan and the opportunity. This is very important to understand, because most businesses eventually end up degrading their communication by only creating and pushing content that they can create quickly, but has no added value to the audience. So the whole quality over quantity. You'd want more quality than quantity, but of course you would want also. You have to find the right mix between quantity and quality, but it has to lean more towards quality than quantity. And that's why getting the perfect piece of content may also lead to losing some opportunities to connect with your audience. So you have to find the right balance. You don't want to spend too much time getting it perfect from all angles, because one, it's never going to be perfect. Two, you might lose on the opportunity that you have. And in the same time, you don't just want to push content for the sake of pushing content, because eventually you're just going to become one of the many pieces of content or noise that's out there, and people are just going to mindlessly scroll through you. Now, moving on to section 4 of this course, I'm going to take you through some important concepts and points about search. The search component of digital marketing can be divided into 2 categories. SEO, which stands for search engine optimization, which is basically the set of techniques you execute to boost your organic ranking. And the other category, the other category is search engine marketing, which is basically the paid ads you run through your search engine. To benefit from search engines' organic traffic, you'll need to understand how people use search engines. Generally speaking, all searches that people make on search engines can be classified in one of the following 3 types. Number 1, actions or transaction or transactional queries, and that's you wanting to do something like buying a plane ticket or listening to a song or something like that. The second one is informational queries, and that's basically you wanting information or looking for information about something, whether it's a band, a city, or something like that. The third one is navigational or browsing, and that's basically when you want to go to a place on the internet. So the NFL or Facebook or the World Cup's homepage. So search engines identify the type of search query, whether it's informational, navigational, or transactional, and will show you the most relevant and appropriate search result that satisfies the searcher's needs. These three types of searches, in essence, tell us a lot about the intent of the user, and that's when we do SEO and we plan for SEO. There's a lot that goes in the background in understanding what is relevant to what stage of the funnel for the customers. So it's not just, let's rank this word, this keyword randomly like that. So this is an outline of a common process people go through when using search engines. Understanding this process allows you to understand what different search terms mean in terms of user intent and where they place your customers in their customer journey. Yeah. So, and we all do this probably without really consciously knowing. But now once you go through this list and you find yourself on Google, try to see where you stand vis-a-vis this list. So number one is you experience the need for an answer or a solution or a piece of information. You then formulate that need in a string of words and phrases, which is known as the query. Then you enter the query into the search engine, and then you browse through the paid and organic results generated. You click on the most appealing result based on the few lines of text that you see on your screen. And then once you're on your website or on the website, you scan for the solution or a link to that solution. And you do this very quickly. And then if you're unsatisfied, then you return to your browser, to the search results, and you go for another link. And if that doesn't work, or maybe you just decide that you don't want the whole page of results or the whole list of results, then you perform a new search with a new query. And like I said at the beginning, it's important and it's good to understand this process because it will allow you to understand what terms mean in terms of intent to you as a business about your customers, where they stand in the customer journey. And you'll also be able to look at things like your Google Analytics or your analytics and look at the behavior of your visitors based on the keywords, and that will tell you what keywords to focus on, what keywords that maybe they are misleading, or maybe you think that this keyword is relevant, whereas in your niche or your industry you should be targeting a different keyword. Before we look at how the search process impacts your digital marketing, we have to get acquainted with the relationship between the number of keywords in a search term and the search volume that you get. Generally speaking, or usually, the shorter or the broader the search query is, the more or the higher the volume it gets. And the longer it is, and i.e. the more specific it is, the lower the search volume is. Now, understanding this should influence how and what you communicate accordingly. So I've done this example for you, and I overlaid the stages of the marketing funnel to see for you to see how it plays out. Now, let's assume, or let's say, for example, that you are hanging out with a friend and he or she talks about scuba diving, and you become interested about the topic. So what you do, you basically look up scuba diving on Google, and you do that because you want to acquaint yourself with the topic. Of course, what ends up happening is that you get a page with a lot of different results. You might get scuba diving equipment, you might get scuba diving history, you might get scuba diving courses and scuba diving ads, all in one page result, because you used a very broad term, which is scuba diving. and Google is giving you a wide range of stuff to consider, because Google doesn't really know at this stage what you're looking for. Are you looking for just information, or are you looking for courses or certifications, or what is it? So they give you a bunch of stuff that is all over the map. Based on what you see, you might see that some of the results are helpful in making you want to pursue scuba diving. So you refine your search by searching, for example, if you're interested in learning how to scuba dive, you might say, okay, now let me go for scuba diving schools or centers. Now you're learning about the different options that are available, and you conclude that since it takes X many hours for you to get certified, you probably need to refine your search to look for some center with training during the weekend. So you refine your search and you go weekend scuba diving lessons. And here you are beginning to see that the results are more focused towards, scuba diving centers with lessons on the weekend. And at this point, you begin to move into your evaluation and evaluating your options against what you really need. Then comes the last stage, where you might call or sign up or book a free trial and basically qualify as a conversion. Now, here's something to keep in mind. The movement within the funnel is not one way. Yes, as digital marketers, we like to say, quote unquote, going down the funnel to show that the customer is going through the customer journey towards the conversion phase. But in reality, the movement, you are moving back and forth in between the stages. And this is important for you to understand, because if we look at the example that we just looked at, we are purely looking at the funnel or the journey from the search engine perspective. We did not factor in that the prospect or the lead or the client or the customer is going to spend time on social media with about the topic, reading, asking groups, and so on. So they might be looking at, in terms of search intent, they might be at the evaluation phase, but they might be still at maybe the consideration phase on a Facebook group, because they are asking questions that led to different results or different feedback. So they're going back and forth. It's not really going down the funnel and that's it. So keep that in mind when you're looking at everything. It's not really one way down, and there are different influencers, not just the search engine, but there's social media and even paid ads. After seeing an example of how search terms show where you are in the funnel as a customer, it is time to understand how these search terms help your website as a business or as a business owner. One of the biggest mistakes business owners do is they feel like the homepage should rank for all of the keywords, because once they believe that once the customer is on the homepage, then they'll figure out how to navigate their way to what they want. The problem here is basically twofold. The first one is it is a waste of resources, and it's very difficult to do, and we'll touch upon that later. The second problem is that we are always in a rush as customers. When we visit a website, we're always in a rush. We don't like to work too much for the information and figuring out where to go to satisfy my need. So if I'm searching for weekend scuba diving lessons for women, and I land on a homepage of a scuba diving school that is showing me different categories and different options, I will just basically peace out and leave. So what you need to do is optimize each layer with the appropriate keywords. The search term scuba diving will be for the home page and some of the middle pages, and the term scuba diving courses should be for the middle layer, i.e. the categories and subcategories, and then long tail ones like weekend scuba diving lessons will be basically the last layer or the bottom layer, which is the service layer, service or product pages. Okay, so we've been talking about keywords and all that stuff that we've been talking about. But really, why do we need to care about SEO? Well, it it improves your traffic from organic search, and that basically is free traffic. You don't have to pay for it, at least not on an ongoing basis. You might have to invest in, creating a blog or something like that. But once it's up and running and you do the right things to get it to the number one spot, not necessarily the number one spot, but the first page at least, then that's free traffic for you. Yeah. So it improves your traffic from organic search. And you could see that if you have, maybe Google Analytics, you can see that in terms of visits per traffic source. The other thing is that it should help improve your sales and conversions. The more organic search, or the more organic traffic, organic relevant traffic that you get, the more you should see in terms of conversions. And what's important here is that it's relevant organic traffic. So that means that you need to invest time in figuring out your keywords and all that stuff. And in terms of results, you can see that in your analytics as maybe sales, sales or conversions per traffic source. And the last thing is improve your visibility in search engines. And that, of course, is your where you are in the search results, and you can do that with, or you can track that with rank tracking for the targeted keywords. This might, well, it's not might, it definitely will involve you paying a monthly fee if you want to do it on your own to see where you stand. If you have an agency that can do it for you, then it's part of the deal that you get when you do your SEO. So now, how do we do this? How do we improve the visibility and improve the organic traffic and all that stuff? So we accomplish this by optimizing our website to make it easy for search engines to crawl, and that's where the term SEO optimization or SEO friendly website comes from. So we need to make it easy for search engines to crawl and to understand what they are crawling. Now, SEO can be very technical, and technical SEO, or also known as on-site SEO, is the technical part. We're not going to go into it because it's obviously technical, and most business owners are not gonna get into the technical aspects of SEO. And there is also the non-technical aspects, which is called off-site SEO. I'm showing you the most common technical components on your screen. I want you to know about them because they are important for you to understand. You don't have to know how to resolve them unless you are into figuring these things out. Like I said, I will not be diving in them because they are mostly beyond what the average business owner can handle. I do encourage you to Google them and learn about them. But from my experience and from what I do and see from clients, is that this is never handled by the client. They usually, or by the business owner, they usually outsource it to an agency, or maybe they have an in-house team that understands how to do it and they do it that way. I am, however, going to talk about off-site or non-technical SEO, and more specifically backlinks, because I think backlinks are, you can get a lot of your technical SEO stuff right, but if you don't have backlinks, then you're not going anywhere. What is backlinks? Backlinks are basically other websites linking back to you, and that's important because that impacts your page rank. And page rank works by counting the number and quality of links to a page, to your website, or to a page on your website, to determine a rough estimate of how important this website is. The underlying assumption is that the more important websites will have more websites linking to them. So the more important you are, the more people will link to you. And that's, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that was one of the first patents for Google in terms of the whole page ranking thing. And it's also named after one of the founders. Can't remember his first name, but his last name is Page. So it's cool. So PageRank is impacted by backlinks, and backlinks, like we said, they are very important because they tell Google how important your website is. So to understand backlinks more, you need to look at them, or you need to know that there are multiple types of backlinks. I think there are 5. What you really need to focus on are the do follow backlinks and no follow backlinks. There is also user generated, and there's ad, and there's a 5th one. I can't remember which one it was. What you need to focus on is, what you need to be aiming to get is do follow backlinks. If you get no follow backlinks, they help out, but not as much as do follow backlinks. So what does it mean to have a do follow backlink? Basically, when Google spiders crawl a website and they see a link, and they see in the code that this is a do follow link, then Google knows or understands that the website that's linking to you is giving you 100% of their vote of confidence. And that's what do follow means. That means it just tells Google that the website that's linking to you with a do follow link is giving you their fullest confidence. A no follow backlink, it just tells Google that, hey, I am linking to this guy, but I'm not saying I don't trust him, but I'm not saying I trust him. I'm linking to him. Google really, or you really, want the more do follow backlinks, the better. No follow backlinks do help in building your authority in Google's eyes, but the do follow backlinks is where the juice comes from. Now that we've covered SEO, well, we didn't really cover all of SEO, but we covered what we covered in SEO. It's time to move on to paying for the traffic. So if SEO was organic and free, now we're going to talk about paid ads and getting paid traffic. We all know what paid traffic or paid ads are. We've seen them all over the place, on Facebook, on all of the social media platforms. I'm not going to name each one of them every time. On search engine, even when you look at your maps or Google Maps, you'll have an ad served there. So they're all over the place. We've seen them all. And like with everything else in life, there are pros and cons to everything. So paid ads are a great way to get the ball rolling for your business until your SEO efforts kick in. It's much faster than SEO, and it allows you to target with some high level of accuracy depending on where you deploy your ads. The downside is that you're not the only one playing the ads game. So your cost per click is going to be increasing over time because everybody is trying to do the same. There is more to paid ads than just advertising on search results. Google Ads, for example, allows you to do display advertising on websites. They allow you to also do video advertising on YouTube, and they do sponsored promotions in Gmail. This makes Google Ads a very powerful advertising platform that allows you to create multi-channel ads to a targeted audience. So, for example, you could be creating a brand awareness campaign with display and video ads. You could be simultaneously encouraging interest with Gmail sponsored promotions, and then get interested visitors to your site with search ads. If we look at social media platforms like Facebook and LinkedIn, for example, they both allow you to get very targeted with your ads. They also allow retargeting to take place. So anybody who has interacted with your ads, your website, or any pieces of your content can be retargeted. So meshing all of these together is where the opportunities lie. As a business owner, you should think of how to leverage the fact that you can always be communicating with your interested audience until they convert, or even after they convert. So there's a lot of different terminology and concepts, and like many other disciplines, it might be overwhelming initially to understand all of them, or know all of them. The good news is that whenever you're in doubt, or whenever you find yourself reading something new, you just Google it and you should have your answer. But with that being said, I want to take you through some of the important ones, or some of the ones that you will most likely encounter, whether you're dealing with your with a digital marketing agency, or your in-house team. So a keyword is something that we looked at in search. It's basically the search term that you specify to trigger the ads. Impressions is how often your ad is shown as a result. Clicks is how many clicks, how often has your ad received clicks. Click-through rate, or CTR, is the percentage of the impressions that led to a click. Cost per impression, or cost per meal, CPM, is how much it is costing you to show your ads 1,000 times. Cost per acquisition is how much it costs in pay-per-click advertising to generate a sale or a conversion. This is more towards the end of the funnel type of stuff. It just shows you, basically, as the explanation says, it just shows you how much it's costing you to get a sale or a conversion. Placement, this is to specify where your ad is being shown. Landing page is the page on your website where your ad is sending clicks to. It's always advisable to have a landing page that is separate than the rest of your website. So if you're basically, what I mean is, your landing page that you are going to be using for your Google ads, or your ads in general, should be different from the normal landing pages that maybe are ranking organically on Google. And there are lots of different reasons for it. It depends on a lot of different factors also, but to simplify it, it helps you with your tracking, analytics, and retargeting. So always try to have a separate landing page for your ads. Moving on to conversion, this is straightforward. It's basically a sale or a desirable action on your website. In a lot of cases, it could be that a conversion for your campaign, or for that client, maybe is a booking, not necessarily somebody who has paid for a service yet, but somebody who has booked a call, or booked an appointment. The conversion rate is the percentage of visits that result in a conversion. Audience, we covered in section 1. Basically, it's the group of people who share similarities with the group you want to communicate with. Interests are part of what makes an audience or a persona. If you're doing Facebook ads, the interests is part of the audience you are selecting. So, and that's if you remember back in the audience and persona section, we talked about how sometimes they're used interchangeably. So on Facebook, when you're doing your ads, maybe you're building your campaign and your ads based on your persona. However, on Facebook, they don't use persona. They use the term audience. But yeah, that's just a side note for you. Lookalike audience, that's basically when you are leveraging your existing customers and you're asking Facebook or the different social media platforms to serve ads to people who look very much like your existing customers. And that's why it's important to collect email addresses and mobile numbers so that you can upload this data to Facebook or the different social media platforms that you're planning on advertising on, to ask them to create an audience that looks like the list or the data that you have, and that's why it's called a lookalike audience. A custom audience is a feature that allows you to create an audience based on different factors like content that was viewed, or web pages that were visited, or even the duration that was spent on your website. So let's say someone has visited your booking page but did not complete the booking. What you can do is you can ask Facebook to serve ads targeting only those people who visited your booking page but did not convert, and offering them or enticing them with an offer to book now. And this is a great way to, somebody may have gotten distracted while they were booking, or something happened and they decided that they want to delay, confirming the booking or doing the booking. And then you can come in and making it worth their while, or maybe just simply reminding them. You don't have to give them an offer. It depends on your business and what you're selling and what you're offering. A pixel is the piece of code that you add to your website to allow Facebook and other social media to track your visitors to serve them with ads. It's important to note that this is not as effective as before due to some of the changes that took place, like the iOS changes that took place. I think it's been 2 years now. With that being said, it's still effective, and it's still highly recommended to have a pixel installed, or a pixel code installed onto your website. And just FYI, without a pixel, you won't be able to do the custom audiences that we talked about, or the retargeting. We're down to our last two concepts, and they are very important concepts. And I actually love talking about these. The first of the last two is ROAS, and it stands for the return on ad spend. So basically, you spend, for example, $5 on ads, and you generate $15 in conversions or in sales. And that means you have a ROAS of 3 times, which is the $15 you have generated divided by the $5 that you spent, and that's your ROAS. It's 3x, or 3 times. ROAS is very important to look at when you want to maybe look at which ads are performing better than the rest, which ads to turn off, and which ads to keep on. ROAS is important for that. Unfortunately, some people only look at ROAS and they forget to look at the big picture, which is in my opinion, the LTV. The LTV is the lifetime value of the customer, and this is basically how much is the customer worth for the time they are a customer. And the idea of the time that they are a customer varies from industry to industry and from business to business. So maybe if you are a makeup brand, maybe the lifetime of the customer is 2 years, whereas if you are a boarding school, a private boarding school, it could be 13 years, because if you get somebody in from grade 1 all the way to grade 12, so that is the lifetime value of the customer. And so how do you look at it? So let's stick to the boarding school example. If you look at a boarding school that has, from grade 1 to grade 12, and for the sake of this example, let's assume that each year the tuition fee is $10,000. So the lifetime value, or the LTV of a customer, could potentially be $120,000. Some parents might move their kids from school to school, or so on, and that's why I said potentially. But generally speaking, this is how you calculate it: how much that customer is going to generate you money for the duration they are a customer. So some people say, I want a ROAS of 5x or 7x or 8x or whatever it is, but then it may be not the right approach for your business. And if we look at the boarding school example, would you pay $10,000 to acquire a client, or I don't want to say to acquire a kid because it sounds weird, but to acquire a client who is going to have one or maybe two kids in your school from grade 1 to grade 12, which is $120,000? Of course you would, because that is 12 times your return on not return on investment, but 12 times the ROAS. When you are hiring a paid ads specialist or a digital marketing agency, it's your job as a business owner to strike the right balance between prioritizing ROAS and LTV. Lots of business owners demand from their employees or digital marketing agencies that the ROAS be 5 times, 6 times, 7 times. I've seen people asking for 10 times, and in other cases, digital marketing agencies want to show that they are going to be delivering amazing results, and they start promising and throwing out crazy ROASs. So they'll say, oh, we can do 12 ROAS, or we guarantee that we'll do 12 ROAS, and so on and so forth. Now, ROAS, like I said, is very important for you to understand which ads to keep on and which ads to turn off, which ads may be dying off, and so on. So it's an important gauge. So our next section is the budgeting and planning section. It is the final section before we put everything together in an example like we used, or like we did with the scuba diving example that we did in the search section, but we are going to kind of make it more comprehensive. In terms of the budgeting and planning section, as a business owner, one of you, or a decision maker, one of your primary tasks is to budget and plan for your business. And though you might say or believe that you can get a lot done digitally for free, there isn't. It's not really free 100%, yeah, and there is always an investment of some sort that you need to make. It could be time, or even financial or money. So it's important for you to structure everything that you do in a way that makes sense, so that you can execute and you can manage the budget and the planning appropriately. Planning a digital marketing campaign, whether a simple one or a complex one, is the process of defining your objectives, your strategy, your tactics, your target audience, and your channels. And it has to cover your 6 key pillars. And the first one of those is, the goal setting and the tracking, which specific goals should be set for the online campaign that you want to do, or the online campaigns that you want to do, and how do you measure success. The second pillar is campaign insights, and this is basically which data about customers and competitors' behaviors is available to inform our decisions. The third one is segmentation and targeting, and this is basically how do we target and how do we reach our different audiences. And the fourth pillar is basically the offer that we want to do, or and the message development or the message development. So basically, this is how do we specify what our key messages are, how do we highlight our offers. The fifth pillar is budgeting and selecting the digital media mix. And this is basically you thinking about how to set the budget and invest in different forms of digital media. And the last pillar is the integration into the overall media schedule or plan. And this is basically you asking the question of how should we plan the media schedule, which incorporates the different waves of online and offline communications. Of course, that assumes that you're doing some offline communication. If you are, then this makes sense. If you're not doing any offline communication, then just basically scrap the last part out. So once you have a plan, you're able to see what resources you have and what you need to cover any gaps that you identify, and maybe what alternative options do you have at your disposal. And this basically takes us to the resource mapping, and this is an essential and a smart way of looking at what you need, especially when the complexity is high. This can help minimize misspent allocations of money, and it also helps minimize wasted team time and team effort. A resource map is basically the clear layout of all the resources you will require and what they will be required for. Yeah, this can also help you in identifying where the gaps are in the current resources. So maybe you need to hire more people, allowing you to figure out how to cover the gap before you actually get to, before you hit the wall itself. So maybe you realize that you need to hire more people, and now you have to incorporate the hiring time and all that stuff before you get to the campaign, and you realize, oh snap, I need to have this type of expertise on my team, and I don't have that. I need to find somebody. This is going to take time. It's going to delay the campaign, and so on. So it's basically a clear layout of all the resources required and what they are required for. This allows you to have a better understanding of the costs associated with the development of the campaign or the campaigns, allows you to allocate resources in a more robust way, and it allows you to avoid waiting time or wasting time and wasting effort. And so you have four main areas you need to consider thoroughly when defining your budget for any planned campaign. So the first one is the human resource aspect, which is, what talent do you need? The second one is tools. Maybe you need to have some kind of a social listening tool or a scheduling tool, or maybe with a new hire that you're getting for this campaign, you might need a laptop, and maybe, I don't know, a phone for doing content or whatever it is. And then the third one is the creative costs. So if you're dealing with an agency, do you or do you have an in-house team? How much time does the in-house team need? Do they have time to do this campaign along with the other stuff that they have to do? What fees is the agency charging to do the design or the campaign or so on? So there's that aspect to it as well. It could be in-house or it could be outsourced. And the last one is the media cost, and this is basically what is it going to cost you to do the paid ads for the campaign, or maybe the SEO for the campaign, and so on. So it is essential to establish how much is viable to allocate towards digital media, and then how much the investment should most appropriately be spread across varying digital marketing channels. And this leads us to this slide, which is the creative media ratio. This is the ratio of creative cost to media cost. Most common ratio is 20% on creative, 80% on media channel or media channels. This is an essential consideration, as the correct infrastructure and support networks are needed to be in place to support the creative. I have never seen a business who has overinvested in creative and seen any benefit from the overinvestment. In fact, if you overinvest, usually this leads to a negative performance because the creative is not able to serve its purpose properly without sufficient investment in the media. So the two purposes of the creative media ratio is to help you maximize the support you can offer your activity, and to ensure you are not overly investing in the creative work or any creative work that won't receive enough paid support. The last point I want to share on this is that yes, we say the ratio is 20/80, but this is not set in stone or God sent. You can do 30/70, 15/85. It's not the end of the world. But the whole idea is you need to have enough to support the creative that you do. Otherwise, it's just going to sit there and do nothing. And we've mentioned this earlier in this course. Whenever you have a piece of content that's working, or not, or maybe you don't even know if it's working or not, but you want to see if it's working, you will need to boost it. Otherwise, you're just part of the noise that people go through without really paying attention to it. And so this creative budget, the 20% that we talked about in the previous slide, can sometimes be expensive or too much to handle for a lot of organizations. And therefore, it's important for the organization or the decision maker or the business owner to consider the trade-off between cost, speed, quality, in-house, outsourced, and so on. So things you might need to look at is basically, do you need copywriters? Do you have a copywriter, or do you need to hire one or get one outsourced, or get an agency for that? Same thing with an art director and a graphic designer. Most businesses don't have a photographer on hand or on the payroll, so that's usually outsourced. Video editors, maybe special software. So all of these things make up the 20% of your creative cost. And you'll notice that if you thought that you will be spending, let's say, $200, let's say that your 20% is $200, which is nothing really, but let's say you're spending $200 on creative, your $200 is not going to get you $200 worth of creative, because you're going to have to do all of that stuff. And that's why a lot of companies, especially small and medium-sized companies, they end up outsourcing a lot of the creative work to agencies, because the agencies have all of these people on their payroll, and because the agencies work with different clients, then the overhead cost is divided on multiple clients, and you only bear the cost. You partially bear the cost of all of these. You don't have to fully hire anybody. So in some cases, it's best to outsource all of it or part of it. In other cases, it's probably better you do it in-house. But what's important is that the business or the decision maker has to acknowledge that this is something that they need to look at and consider before they move forward. Every campaign you plan, budget, and execute should be measurable with KPIs. This helps you validate if your investment is achieving its objectives. It will help you validate if the campaign or the campaigns are effective vis-a-vis other campaigns that you've run or you're running. So this ultimately enables informed decision making across all levels of the business. It is important to ensure that the KPIs are established and agreed upon before the project or the campaign goes live. And this basically ensures transparency and accountability with all stakeholders. And whether you're doing this in-house or you have this outsourced to an agency, ask the team creating this for you to have some kind of a dashboard, like a dashboard view where you can see the whole picture, and then dig deeper if and when you need it. Again, this should allow you to look at the current results, compare it with past results, and even compare it with different campaigns and between different metrics themselves. So common KPIs we use in digital marketing: website engagement, social interactions, reach, traffic sources, campaign performance, landing page conversion rates, organic searches, mobile traffic. Now, of course, not all of what you see on the slide, not all of the KPIs you see on the slide are digital marketing related, but it is important that the digital marketing team, whether it's in-house or the agency that's doing or running the campaigns for you, get access to the non-digital marketing KPI so that they also can take that feedback or that set of data and see if they can incorporate it into their campaign or into fine-tuning their campaign. And here we are. This is the last slide or the last section, and this is where we put everything together. And I know this looks crowded. This is supposed to be a funnel. I know it may not look like a funnel with a wide top and a narrow bottom, because otherwise it just would look too crowded. It might be anxiety inducing for some people, but I really wanted to show you some kind of a visual aid to help you see how things fit together. This is by no means the only way to do it for a scuba diving school. So if you are running a scuba diving school, this is not the only way to do it. This would be one way or a funnel out of the funnels, multiple funnels you would have. But the general idea is that you need to leverage your website, your social media, and your paid ads to get people into and through your funnel. Like I said, this would be one of multiple funnels. The more data you have about your audience and your customer journey, the more effective your funnels can be. Definitely don't do it with the funnels. You don't need 10 or 15 or 20 funnels. Most businesses will be more than good with 3 funnels. You could try doing more if you really feel like you need more. You can try and do more, but you will eventually find that every now and then you'll have 2 or 3 funnels merge into a single point and become like one funnel. And once you get that, you realize that, okay, maybe I should just make that a funnel with a much wider top. That's all what happens basically. And last thing is basically always remember that there's an offline component. Well, not always. For most businesses, there's an offline component, and we have not captured that in this funnel. So things like asking friends and family for advice, Maybe they've had a previous experience with a different school or something like that. All of that hasn't been tackled here, but basically, it's something that you should keep in mind when you are not necessarily building your funnels, but when you are running your business. Is that, okay, I'll build this funnel. This looks quite solid for me, but I should always be flexible or smart enough to know that this is not set in stone. There are always changing variables, and I should be okay with that. But this is the general structure that I'm going after. And so if you look at this specific example, basically, traffic is coming from different sources: the paid traffic, the organic traffic, and social media. All that traffic is coming to a blog, which is basically, in this example, the top 10 benefits of learning scuba diving. And then you begin your retargeting. You retarget those who visited that page, and then you start serving different things with different social media posts, YouTube ads, visiting different pages on your website and retargeting, and so on and so forth, until they come to the bottom and they convert. All right, and this is it, the end of the course. I'm really honored that you stuck around with me during this whole course. We covered audiences and personas. We covered content creation, search, paid ads, budgeting and planning, and then we put it all together in that cluttered but unique funnel example for a scuba diving center. I sincerely hope that you found this helpful and beneficial. Please feel free to reach out to me. My contact information is displayed on the screen. You can ask me anything about this course, anything about a topic that I have not covered, maybe e-commerce or email. And feel free to ask and check out our digital marketing services. This was Haytham Zaidan from Digitopia.Marketing, signing out. Have a lovely day. Good luck with your business, and wish you a joyful, prosperous future and life.